Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail and the fact that I am so very excited, Despia has gotten a new card to make it even better. Now, Despia honestly wasn't all that bad even up until this point. However, they got a new card to make them even more playable and actually have disruption on the opponent's turn, which was something that they were lacking. That card being Guardian Chimera. Now, if you don't know what this card does, let me quickly read it. 3 monsters with different names are its fusion material. Must be fusion summoned using only monsters from your hand and field, with at least 1 monster from each. If this card is fusion summoned by a spell card or effect, you can draw cards equal to the number of cards used as material from the hand, and if you do, destroy cards your opponent controls equal to the number of cards used as material from the field. You can only use this effect of Guardian Chimera once per turn, and while polymerization is in your graveyard, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. So basically what this does is you can use something like Branded in red in order to quick effect grab a monster to your hand, fuse away your field and your hand in order to go into a Guardian Chimera to at least pop a card, but more importantly, draw cards as well. This allows Despia to be absolutely insane, just because now they have a way to interact with their opponent that isn't just floating or something like a DPE. So let me quickly do the card by card. This was the deck that I ended up playing on stream to get to, I think, dual rank 16 or 17 or something like that from 10 in the Duelist Cup. So I'm not quite at dual level max, but this is probably what I will play to get there. Anyway, let's do the quick card by card. So we are running the hand trap package of double Gamma with the driver. We are running the 1 Effect Veiler, 2 Ash Blossom, triple Maxi, the 1 Nibiru, and that is it for the hand traps. So the reason I'm running this specific lineup is because basically it's the best light targets for us to utilize with our Despia cards for the fusions. So that's basically it. Yeah, that's also why we cut down to only the 2 Ash Blossoms. Maxi is obviously crazy, and there's that. Moving on to the actual Despia stuff, we're playing triple Tragedy, triple Aluber, double Dramaturg, and the 1 Ad Libitum, as well as the double Branded in red, the triple Branded Opening, and the 1 Theater. Branded in red is searchable, but you definitely do need to have some sort of follow-up in the grave, or just a card in the grave, so it's not worth playing 3 of because it does require a little bit of setup. Moving on, we have the Edge Imp package as well, with the 2 Edge Imp Chain, the 2 Polymerization, and the triple Fright for Patchwork. The reason we run this in the way that we do with the 2 and 2 and 3 is because Fright for Patchwork is just an insane Ash Blossom bait, basically, before slapping down your Aluber. So that's why we're running this card. It's just very good Ash Blossom bait. As for the rest of the cards, we are running the DPE package with its Celestial Dasher and the 2 Fusion Destiny. Honestly, this package is pretty lackluster just because we very rarely get to go into the Synchro monsters, or sorry, Synchro, Link monsters such as Verte. It's much better just to end on like 1 Fusion or something like that. So this is honestly cuttable. You could replace this with Fusion or super polymerization and Albaz, or Ecclesia and Albaz, or something like that. Also, the reason we're not playing super poly is because it's really terrible right now in the meta. Just so many different things aren't super polyable. So there you go. And as for the rest of our cards, we're running the 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, the 1 Foolish Burial, triple Allure of Darkness. Drawing cards is so very nice, especially since you can banish Tragedy, which is also great. We're running the 2 Called by the Grave, the 2 Forbidden Droplets, and the triple Evenly Matched. Evenly Matched is absolutely crazy because oftentimes you don't really need your battle phase, and being able to deal with like an entire opponent's board is very, very nice. So yeah, that is it for the main deck. For the extra deck, we are running 2 Despia Q. This card is very nice. I like ending on this one instead of the Masquerade. While Masquerade, sure, can burn the opponent when they activate cards, this card has a lot more synergy with being able to float and just like retaining the advantage by like, you know, being able to float into an Aluber to get that advantage, or maybe floating into more disruption with something like the Dramaturg, or what have you. So this just giving extra disruption is very nice. We have the 2 Masquerade, we have the 1 DPE, we have 2 Guardian Chimera. Again, this is kind of your boss monster. It's the best way to go for Disruption, so having 2 of it just makes sense. You can cut this to 1 if you don't have the materials for it. That is totally okay. However, you definitely want to be running 2 if you can. The 1 Proskenion, mostly this is used for in like corner case situations where it's like, oh, I just need something that's bigger than 3000 attack so that I can deal with an opponent's monster. And then we have the first Dark Lord as well. This one is harder to summon. I do have 2 of it in here. Realistically, again, you don't need to. You could probably replace this for a 3rd Masquerade or an Albaz fusion and play Albaz or something like that. But yeah, it's just a good option for you. Definitely should be playing 1 just because if you're able to go a Despia, and a Despia into the first Dark Lord, this card's very, very good for you. Moving on to the Link monsters, I never summoned a single one of these except for maybe once I summoned Verte. But yeah, it's IP, Verte, Unicorn, Apollosa, and the Underworld Goddess. That's basically it. Let's hop into the duels and show you how this deck performs. Before we get on to the rest of the video, did you know that 70% of the people who watch my content aren't subscribed? If you end up liking the content, consider subscribing. You can always unsubscribe later if you end up not liking it. Anyway, let's get on to the rest of the video. Alright, so here we are going first, and we drew a quite interesting hand. So I'm going to just normal summon the Aluber, and okay, it does go off, so we get ourselves the Theater. It's surprising my opponent doesn't have Ash or Imperm, but that's all good. So we're going to go for the Theater to fusion summon away our Aluber, as well as the Edge of Chain, in order to go for Masquerade. Our Edge of Chain is going to grab our Frightful Patchwork. We're going to drop down the Frightful Patchwork to grab Polymerization, as well as the Edge Imp Chain. So there's those. And then we're going to set 1 and 2 with the Branded Opening and Branded in red, and pass the turn. So now on the opponent's turn, what we can do is, as long as we have another monster on our field, we can go for the Branded in red, add back the Aluber, and then fusion summon into a Guardian Chimera using the Edge Imp Chain, the Aluber, and the Masquerade, allowing us to pop a card on our opponent's field, non-target by the way, and more importantly, drawing 2 cards, which is very, very nice. Plus, we have the Branded Opening if we need to as well. So down comes the Live Twins. They actually didn't draw either of the actual Kiss-a-Kill or Leela, so there's that. Anyway, they are going to special summon out the Leela here, and I am going to actually special summon out my Ad Libitum as well off of the Branded Opening. So now we can use the Ad Libitum if we wanted to from the field in order to pop a card as well. But yeah, here comes out the Branded in red. And we shall go for 1, 2, and 3, using the 2 cards in hand as well as the Ad Libitum in order to go into Guardian Chimera. Guardian Chimera is going to pop a card, and we are also going to special summon out our Aluber. We draw 2, and then the Aluber is going to add another Branded in red, and my opponent concedes, realizing there's a lot more that I can do, and they're going to take 600 each time they activate something. Also, I don't think their hand was too great. Alright, and here we are going second with... It's an interesting hand, I'll say that. But we are playing up against Sword Soul. So they are going to search out the Moye effect activate. I can't do anything here. I'm just going to have to let this go. We do have 2 branded, Fusion Destinies, which means if they end up going for a Baron, that if the Fusion Destiny ends up getting negated, we can actually activate the other one, because Fusion Destiny in particular says this card can only be activated once, not used once. Activate means that if it gets negated, such as something like Baron de Fleur, which negates activations, we can activate the second one. So we're going to burn for 12, they're going to set 2 with 2 negates. Now we know one of their cards that they ended up searching was the Blackout. So we know that we have to play around Blackout, and I immediately make a mistake by activating my Despia Theater. They are going to maxi, I'm just going to let that happen. Sure, you can get your +1, since I literally have nothing else that I can do other than going for the DPE here. We are going to go to battle, and we are just going to walk into the Baron. Now, legitimately, what they could have done is they could have activated their Blackout, popped both of these, and then activated the Baron to negate the activation of my DPE, preventing it from coming back. Did they do that? No. Did they know that that would have literally won them the game? No. So, there's that. But yeah, we are going to then DPE. They are going to obviously negate, because they kind of need to. And then we are going to set 1 and 2 and pass. I actually set the Fusion Destiny, reason being, again, I know that they have that Blackout that could potentially pop cards, and I want them to potentially hit something like the Fusion Destiny. Anyway, they're going to go to the main phase. They're going to go for the Ecclesia, and guess what? I drew the Called By. Feels bad, man. They did have to use their normal summon on this as well because they didn't control less monsters than me. But during the end phase, we are going to activate our DPE to try and pop. Again, they are going to negate. The reason I do that is because I knew it was going to be destroyed off of the Fusion Destiny. So it's like, hey, let's at least try and get something out of this. The Nibiru here is actually very funny because it gives us Theater activation. We can now fuse with the Dramaturg in our hand, but also it contests their entire board. With the Sword Soul Chi-Xiao, we are able to walk in the battle phase and force out that blackout. They're going to drop the Maxi now. They're a little late. They could have chained that to the Dasher, but alas, they didn't. So they're going to actually pop our set Fusion Destiny, to the which I say, oh no, but that's okay. And then they are going to actually, instead of negating with the Chi-Xiao, I don't know why they didn't negate with the Chi-Xiao, but instead of negating with the Chi-Xiao and then activating the Heavenly Dragon Circle, they decided to just activate that Heavenly Dragon Circle, tribute off their Chi-Xiao, and grab up a Moye. So, now my DPE is just kind of dead. So we're going to pop all of the cards. I actually popped the Fusion Destiny and the Blackout with my DPE, but it doesn't really matter. Anyway, out comes the Sword Soul Emergence, and the fact that they have already used Sword Soul Emergence is one of the reasons why I still survive this game. So I'm in a pretty bad predicament, right? We have the DPE, and that's the only interruption, and we know that they haven't used their normal summon because they just long wand here. They actually pitched the Moye for some reason. I don't know why, but they do. Anyway, so they're going to, we're going to pop the long one and just kind of go from there. They're going to banish their Heavenly Dragon Circle in order to grab up Chthona. Of course, they're playing Chthona. There's a level 4 onto their side of the field. At this point, I'm looking pretty scared because, yeah, I could very well die. However, because, again, they've already used that emergence, they can't go for the Chi-Xiao here. If they go for Chi-Xiao and search out something like an emergence, they can't search then a Protoss, which would have then been lethal. So we're going to live on 800 life points, but they do, in fact, have a Dragite that we have to deal with. So, at this point, all we know is that I have a Dramaturg in hand. I need to draw something that I can fuse with, but they do have a spell and trap negation, as well as they have a way to deal with the DPE by just banishing it off of the Berserker. However, I'm okay with that. And you will see why. We're going to draw the second Dramaturg, of course, but we are going to set the Branded in red so that we can keep the Theater while still being able to activate the DPE effect. DPE still needs to pop a card on our side of the field as well as the opponent's. So if I didn't set the Branded in red, I would have had to pop my own Theater, and Theater I definitely need. So my opponent is going to banish the DPE, that's fine. We're going to pop the Dragite so that we can activate our spell. We are going to fuse away into our Despia Q. Now, our Dramaturg is going to come back, but as Chain Link 2, we are going to activate our Despia Q in order to put our opponent's attack position monster to 0. This is exact lethal, by the way. So yeah, there you go. Good game. I could have also drawn 2 off of our Celestial Dasher. So there you go. Alright, and here we are going first with a very good going second hand. So I'm going to just pass the turn and hope that I do not die. That's the hope. Anyway, my opponent goes Foolish Burial, and before I even see anything, I think, oh no, this is Adventure. And then they dump Squamata, and I go, whew, okay, I'm not dead. And this Evenly Matched is going to do some heavy lifting. However, this hand is literally unplayable. If I go Allure of Darkness, end up not finding a Dark, all of a sudden I'm dead. But my opponent is going to do some Shaddoll stuff. They are going to send the Schism to the graveyard, and then they are going to go for Gravity Controller to add back the Schism to their hand. Also, since I didn't actually have anything on my side of the field, this Shaddoll fusion was forced to fusion summon from hand. Luckily, they had the materials, so there's that. Anyway, out comes the Ecclesia. They are going to then search up the Dogmatic of Punishment and pass the turn. I'm okay with that. I draw a second Allure because of course I do. But we are going to go for the Evenly Matched here. They don't have anything, and in main phase 2, I will activate the Harpies, and they will concede. I just found this game really funny. Yeah, just Evenly Matched is crazy. Alright, and here we are once again going first. We drew Called By with the Aluber, so if my opponent doesn't have an Imperm, we're pretty good. Out comes the Ash Blossom, and I go, hip hip hooray, let's get that Called By. Now, I don't really have the greatest of setup because, I mean, it's just Nibiru and the Aluber that can fuse away, and Droplet. Again, this was a very good going second hand, not the greatest for going first. But we are going to go into the Despia Q because, again, of that floating potential that it does have. So it being able to bring cards back along with the theater makes it very sticky and kind of difficult to deal with. We're also going to set the droplets and pass. My opponent goes for Pot of Extravagance, and they are going to banish... Why was that so slow? This... Okay. Anyway, out comes the Cursed Eldland. They are going to search out their Eldritch. Now, notably, this card says, if this face-up card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can add it to your hand or a special summon a Fallen Volvaz or a Despia monster. So, because it's leaving the field, due to the Eldritch effects, we do get to special summon. Now, they do have the Ash Blossom, but guess what? We already called by it, so it doesn't matter. So we are going to special summon out the Aluber and then search out the Branded in Red. Out comes their Eldritch as well by sending the Cursed Eldland. Cursed Eldland is going to send Hakero. They're going to set to proceed to battle and attack in, which allows me to get back our Despia Q thanks to Theater. And with the Harpy's Feather Duster, we're looking pretty good. Anyway, so they are going to pass the turn. We're going to draw Evenly Matched, which, okay, this is one of those instances where it's a little bit too late, but it's not terrible. We're going to drop the Harpy's Feather Duster. They're going to chain their Eldlixir as well as their Hakero. I'm going to then chain again with my Branded in Red to add the Aluber. I know that I have 2 Alubers engraved, so I don't need to chain here, but I do want to grab one of those Alubers guaranteed and have it in hand. Now, I'm not actually going to fusion summon with the Branded in Red. Reason being, there's no point to. I already have the monster that I want to, that I would have fusion summoned out on the field with the Despia Q. So they flip up the Gozen Match just to prevent me from fusion summoning, I'm guessing. But the thing is, again, I could have just gone into another light here if I really wanted to. But more importantly, I just wanted to grab the Aluber to my hand. So they're going to activate the Gozen Match. I'm just going to elect not to fusion summon. They're going to banish their second Aluber. They're going to bring out their Golden Lord and Chain Resolves. Anyway, I go for the Aluber here. We search out the Branded Opening to search out Tragedy. I'm just going to add it to hand, no reason to special summon it, and we are going to then fuse into a Masquerade. Now, I did this a little bit incorrect, because what I could have done is I could have activated the Despia Q here, and then actually fused everything away into a Guardian Chimera, popped or tried to pop both of these monsters, and then attacked in over the Golden Lord. However, I think I actually make with this kind of mistake, I end up making the better play, just given the fact that Masquerade is able to continually burn them, and against the Eldritch, that is pretty nice. So we're going to go for the Tragedy to search out the Aluber, just so that I have that last one in rotation, so that I can actually do stuff. Anyway, we're going to activate the Despia Q, punch in for 25, and pass the turn. So they have 1 card in hand, but they have a whole bunch of activations in grave, and out comes the Pot of Extravagance. They're going to banish 6 and take 600 as well. They're going to set to activate the Eldlixir of Scarlet Sanguine, set the Conquistador, and pass the turn. And then, of course, in end step, they will also activate their Hakero to set the Eldlixir. They're down to 29, which is, I think, four activations before they are not able to activate anything anymore. But they do have the Ash Blossom for the Aluber, and they're also going to flip up There Can Be Only One, which is the worst, quite frankly, this is the worst card, worst floodgate for Eldritch, because now they literally cannot use their Hakero. Don't know why this is played. Don't play this card in Eldritch. It's actually super bad. In something like Shadal's, it works a bit more because everything is a different type, but in a zombie-centric deck, yeah, not really worth it. Anyway, our Aluber gets negated. That's a-okay. Because we can go for the Tragedy here, banish it to set our Branded in Red. So now we have our Forbidden Droplets, our Branded in Red, and with Evenly Matched, we can also pitch it off of the Forbidden Droplets to prevent our opponent from activating any traps if they proceed to battle. So anyway, they are going to go to main phase 1. They are going to activate the Eldritch in their grave to get rid of There Can Be Only One, and then they are going to activate Conquistador. Now, obviously, they have never read a single one of my cards because they would know Branded Opening is in the graveyard. Therefore, don't pop the fusion. Maybe don't pop the fusion. Maybe don't make that attempt. Anyway, they're going to special summon out their Eldritch, and at this point, I have won the game. In damage calculation, I'm going to activate the Forbidden Droplets, pitching the trap from my hand, and negating and having their attack in order to deal lethal damage while they attack in. So, there you go. That's the game. Good game. And that's the deck. All in all, this deck is very good. I don't know if it's quite top tier. I said it was tier 2 on the stream. I'm not entirely sold on that, but it feels like it could be up there in this meta, just because it does play around Max C so very well. It's probably at least Rogue tier, like the top of Rogue tier, bottom of tier 2, but with that being said, still a very competent strategy. However, I know what you're saying. Hey, if Guardian Chimera draws us cards, why aren't we playing more hand traps? The real reason for that is just because we don't really have good hand traps to play in this deck. Right, like Effect Veiler is nice, but again, it's not really the greatest card. The Nibiru, again, nice, kind of a brick, not really something you want to see. So overall, it's just like, it's not worth it to really draw into these hand traps when only a few of them are really going to be useful. However, drawing into equalizers, such as evenly matched forbidden droplets and the like, is way better. And just overall, just drawing cards in general is nice. So yeah, there's that. I can understand playing a more hand trap centric lineup, like for example, running more Effect Veiler or Nibiru or Ash Blossom or Droll or Ghost Ogre or something like that. But honestly, Guardian Chimera drawing cards is nice, but it doesn't happen every game. As you saw, I think we only summoned him once or twice. So again, it's not something that's going to be happening every game, and it's not something that's going to be like determining the game off of the draws. Your game is probably already determined if you're able to go Guardian Chimera pop cards, because you're way advantaged at that point, oftentimes. So yeah, that's basically it. Anyway, I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, a like is very much so appreciated. And if you want to check out more content like this, as well as more Yu-Gi-Oh!, then just be sure to subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye.